I welcome Professor Praveen Kumar Jha, Chairperson, Center for Economic Studies and Planning, Jawaharlal University. Sir,
Thank you.
recently our Prime Minister Modi ji scrapped 500 and 1,000 rupees notes. Do you think that the impact of these demonetization is positive or negative on common man?
You see, if you look at the primary objective of it, as was officially stated, the idea was to garner at least a part of the black income, black economy, which is stored in these currency notes. Although there was an impression officially created as if this is a major attack on black income, black economy itself, which is obviously flawed, because unless you attack the sources of black income and black economy, you're not really going to go very far simply by sort of doing away with some notes, etc. So, in terms of the claim that it would have a huge impact on black income and black economy, in any case, it's a misleading thing. On the other hand, officially, if we can sort of take the claim seriously, that part of the black money held in these currency notes, and if they can be mocked. Now, obvious question arises, what percentage of black income or black economy is held in such notes? We are talking of 86% of currency in the country as a whole in circulation right now. And clearly, a very large part of it is held by common people, common persons, common women and common men, right, for their usual livelihoods and so on and so forth. Now, what would be some kind of estimate which sort of suggests that, okay, 1 lakh crores or 2 lakh crores or 3 lakh crores or 3.5 lakh crores out of these 15, 16 lakh crores currency notes that we have can be black money? Any very, very rigorous assessment of it, to my knowledge, is not there. We hear different kinds of figures, etc. And I might as well say, why not 50,000 crores? Maybe it's just that much. Maybe it's 1 lakh crores, right? So that itself is a bit of a uncertain figure that we're talking about. Government spokesperson have been talking about 3 to 3.5 lakh crores, right? Let us assume that that figure is correct. Okay, give the benefit of doubt to such official claim. Then the next question becomes, what percentage of that would really sort of evade what the government is trying to do? Now, you heard all kinds of stories on day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. Right? And various channels have been explored. For instance, people have hired those who are part of the daily wage working force, given them money to put in their accounts, etc. And this is how, finally, there would be an attempt to subvert what is being tried. Right? So, on the whole, what it has created is a huge discomfort for common citizens at large. It has created huge difficulty for the economy as a whole. If we look at what's been happening during the last week and a more, right, almost 10 days now, we can see that
there is a talk about that there is a temporary difficulty faced by the common man, but in future economy definitely will grow.
No, so let me connect both these. The difficulty is obvious. You are seeing pictures from all over the country, and focus is largely on urban areas. In rural areas, the difficulty is much more severe because you don't really have the same kind of infrastructure of ATMs, no infrastructure of banks, and so on. Given that, how do people cope with it, deal with it? But I was referring to something else which is a much more serious problem. Indian economy, as it happens, is to a large extent, if you look at the lower rungs of the economy, is a cash economy. And it's nothing illegal, right? Your daily vendors, right? If you look at those who are part of what you would consider wage workers or lower middle class and so on, for most of them, in fact, even this techno literacy is something which is just not there. You know, credit cards, debit cards, online payments, etc., is something which possibly is limited to a very small percentage of
people.
our economic citizens. Given all that, obviously they are facing a huge difficulty, both because they are not used to it. Much of their dealings is in terms of currency, and there is nothing wrong with it. Right? And two,
But
there is no
but
infrastructure.
Modi told that Jandan, introduced, and about 28 crores of accounts are already open, so that there was no problem for the rural people. That's what they are
You see,
planting.
the point is, the accounts may have been opened, but a very large percentage of these accounts had actually no money. So they were not really dealing with those accounts and so on. Now, the accounts per se is a very good idea. I have no problems, with acknowledging that that was a significant achievement. Right? But the point is, have people for their regular transactions using those accounts. Two, only if they have some savings, they will go and put it there. Otherwise, they will put somebody else's money in those accounts. Again, you have heard all kinds of stories there. How suddenly deposits in many of these Jandan accounts have swelled. Now, who is diverting all this money? Right? Is there any cost associated with that? Now, if you do an overall assessment and the kind of hardships that it has inflicted on citizens at large, common women and common men, I would say that even if there is some benefit, in terms of addressing black money, that is very small, negligible, but the costs have been huge. And these temporary costs are not something which will give you some very significant dividend tomorrow or day after, right? Plus, this has led to a shrinking of economic activities, which would mean some recession in the immediate future, right? It has created for farmers a situation where they cannot sell their
Commodities.
harvests, right? They are not in a position to buy inputs for their next harvest, right? Next crop and so on. So, if you look at farming community as a whole and a lot of others, particularly in rural India, it's been a huge and massive problem. That is how I would assess it. And urban area, I mean, again, something which is most extreme is people dying. And people dying in the queues, people dying because of inadequate health attention, etc. According to Huffington Post, day before, the toll was already 33 people across the country. Now, we needed sort of adequate preparation if one assumes that there was something to be gained out of it, something significant, right? For that, then at least the argument should have been that, okay, we are ready, we have adequate preparation to deal with how these exchanges can be done, how the economic transactions can be facilitated. On that, it's been a huge failure. On that, we know, I don't think there is any doubt whatsoever that across the country, in terms of that background preparation, the situation has been extremely, extremely distressing. Right?
But actually, according to official sources, they were prepared in advance 6 months back, and they printed required level of currency and everything, but it was not yet entered into the ATMs.
You see,
So
let me also tell you, if that 2000 rupee note was already prepared 6 months ago, the governor of RBI was appointed only 2 months ago. How come his name is there on that note?
Yeah.
So some of these claims we have to not take very seriously. Officially, obviously, people should not be saying such things that the notes were already printed and so on. Now, sort of, let's say, suppose you're talking the preparation, the size of the note. Now, why do you change the size so that now you have to recalibrate all these ATMs?
It takes a longer
You
time.
could have used the same size as, let's say, 1000 rupee notes. Okay, at least that would have eased things. Right? So, this claim of preparation is something which is highly exaggerated. As they say, proof of the pudding is in eating. Right? Now, when you see that there is this massive chaos, clearly there was no preparation. and chaos in mega cities. We are talking of Delhi, Mumbai, etc. If you are not prepared there, forget about your preparation in rural India. Right? So this claim of preparation again is highly exaggerated.
And can you say this is
You need to see.
a surgical attack on poor?
Somebody used a phrase in Supreme Court. There was some deliberation on the matter, and somebody said that it's not surgical attack on black economy. It's a carpet bombing on people at large. Right now, I would say that essentially, very large, overwhelming percentage of the population has been put to extreme difficulty and for reasons which are highly questionable, right? In the sense of being able to address the problem of black money, I think it is hardly a starter. In fact, I would call it a non-starter, right? This particular um, policy. Uh, I think the primary objective of it is a kind of political message, which may have something uh, of significance, right? Maybe telling segments of those who are part of black money major actors that policies like this will also inconvenience you. Now, to what extent that message is taken seriously by them, to what extent this is something which actually has caused them inconvenience is itself questionable, as I told you. But I think large segments of citizens probably feel that this is an attempt to address black money. As I said, if you do a careful economic analysis, it is a non-starter. But many of them do feel that this is something good. Right?
Also, many economists
we have been saying that Prime Minister and his team has done something very good.
economists like Sen and Bonamurthy and others are also saying that it's a good
Right.
reform.
Good reform. On the other hand, you have eminent economists like Professor Praveen Kumar Jha of JNU. You have ex-governor Raghuram Rajan and so on. If you look at their views, it's completely different.
Yeah, right? Kaushik Basu also criticized this one.
Professor Basu as well. So you have lots of people who have. So I would argue that even if there was something significant to be gained, which I do not see, frankly, there may be something very insignificant. But if there was a claim to gain something, at least there should have been adequate preparation, which has been a massive failure, and the cost of it has been borne by citizens at large.
But people think that if we inform in advance, the black money holders might be.
No, you could have used the same kinds of restrictions. You could have sort of said that, okay, it remains legal tender, let's say, till end of this year, right? And use your various oversight mechanisms, monitoring mechanisms to ensure, right? I mean, the government could have easily launched raids all over the country without doing anything like demonetization. Nobody had stopped the government to do so, right? The real question is, on demonetization, who should be held accountable? Now, I am of the view that Prime Minister and his entire team, right? And in all such activities, in all such policy measures, I would argue that economic advisors have to be primarily accountable because it's an economic decision which is being taken, a major decision. And they should be held accountable, I mean, in terms of the costs and the benefits. And I have no doubts whatsoever that the costs have far, far outweighed whatever imaginary gain that is being claimed.
Right, the finance secretary is coming out and he is responding for every query, but Subramanian is not coming to the scene, onto scene. What is the problem?
You see, on that, I mean, these are parts of, let's say, closed door discussions there. So I would not like to fly any kites. I would not like to venture any guess. But if you look at the overall analysis by economists, which are serious, careful, rigorous, and so on and so forth, and I'm talking of economists who engage with the world of policy, I think the overwhelming opinion from the global community of policy economists would be that this was seriously flawed.
Oh, oh.
The decision of demonetizing, you know, 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, which ended up taking 9 out of 10 rupees out of circulation. You don't do something like that.
But according to there are about 17 lakhs crores in the block money. The government is expecting that if those 17 lakhs crores enter into the economy, automatically it may leads to a reduction in inflation.
No. About 16 lakhs is what
Yeah.
the currency stock total
Yeah.
is, let's say, of that, what percentage is in black? That is the question. So as I began right at the, as I shared at the outset, that maybe it's 1 lakh crores, maybe it's 3 lakh crores, one doesn't know,
Yes.
maybe it's 3.5 lakh crores. And of that 3.5, even if we go by the higher figure, what percentage can be captured?
Yeah.
Right?
That is important.
NIPFP, government's own institutions, and many other past committees have tried to estimate what percentage of black income, black economy is in currency. The most generous kind of estimate is 6%. Most of it is in real estate, in houses, in gold, all kinds of other activities. And in terms of cause, you see, just holding some currency is not the cause of black income or black economy. It's a kind of outcome, it's a kind of symptom, so to say. You really need to look at the causes, right? What are we doing about the causes? We can get into detailed analysis of the causes. Right?
What would be the solution for the common man to protect him from this?
You see, as I said, there should have been adequate preparation. Now my sense is the government probably is not willing to consider a rollback. Ideally, it should have been rolled back. Yeah. But the government is not willing to do so. So what is the government doing? Every day it comes up with some extension. Right? Initially it said that these will be valid at some points, uh, petrol stations and some other designated spots and so on and so forth, just for 2-3 days. Then it was extended up to 14th November, then 24th November, right? And similar other changes have been made. So what the government is trying to do in the last 5-6 days is to try and ease some of the difficulties to some extent. Is that enough? I would argue no.
So thank you, sir, for coming back all the way from Delhi to have interaction with the people, and they have given total clarification to the common man as well as the economy also. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be with you.